So good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first Q&A clinic for this month for product management service, product user interface, and application programming interface. I'm here today with Veronica Lipucci Di Paola, who is product owner for PMS, and Andre Idu, who is Spore architect. So we are both here to answer any of your questions concerning the PY or API use. Please note this session will be recorded, and we will make the recording available on EMA YouTube channel and on the event webpage on EMA website. You will be able to ask your questions via the audience interaction tool Slido. In order to join Slido, you can either go to slido.com and insert the code you see here, so hashtag PMS QA1, or you can just scan this QR code. In Slido, you will be able to insert your questions or just upvote the questions that were already sent, and maybe you have the same question and you would like it to be answered. Questions will be shown on the screen and managed live, and we will show that in order of upvote. So the most upvoted ones will get an answer first. So that said, we can start with our Q&A session. So feel free to join Slido and ask any question you have. Okay, so let's start. First question. The terms used to identify products in PMS are displayed in the PMS dynamic reports, but not the codes, which are useful to check data. Is it foreseen to add those codes to the PMS dynamic reports?
So I'll take this question. Yes, it's foreseen and is also very valuable. So we are basically, we started with the public report that you can access via the PLM portal and the main page for products section. You can see them. And if you notice, we just deployed a few days ago this new functionality where you can also access the relevant RMS ID, SMS ID, and org IDs, whether these are org ID or loc IDs, depending on the business use. The next steps for us is also to expand it to the internally registered users and make sure you can also access the same. We will be not using all terminologies or IDs. We will just start progressively. But the answer is yes.
Thank you, Veronica. Next, we don't have any RIMs to connect and view API data. How can I get information on access this data via Postman?
Good morning. I'll take that.
So, yeah.
Or Veronica. Yeah. So I was going to refer to the webinar on the use of the PMS API that we did last week. The recording of that shows how to use Postman to access the PMS API in a demo that I did. And we can, if that is still not clear, then please open a service desk ticket for more information.
Yes, and just to add, by the way, the recording will be available today on YouTube because it's ready for publication. So you can find it here by the end of the morning. Thank you. Next, we are unable to retrieve RMS term names, decoded values from PMS API. The URL in XML JSON requires authentication attempting to view from browser. Kindly confirm if decoded RMS terms can be accessed through PMS API or not.
Yes, I'll take this one as well. So yeah, thank you for this question. Indeed, on the PMS API, we make use of the RMS term IDs, and we don't set display values. That is an improvement that we can look into. However, the aim is that an integration with the PMS API has to also be aware of and being integrated with the rest of the SPOR APIs. So RMS, but also OMS and SMS, as we make use of identifiers from all of those data domains. So in principle, you should request access to the RMS API and integrate with it, make a local copy of the RMS lists that are in use for PMS, and then you should be able to then identify all the other information related to the RMS terms in the PMS API, referred from the PMS API data.
Thank you. Shall only Viva PMS IDs be mapped, or also the PCIDs that are seen upon download? Are the PCIDs final, or will they change later?
So for the moment, we recommend to map the PMS ID. If you access PUI, the product user interface, via the PLM portal, you will notice that you have the PMS ID indeed, but there is no PCID. The reason why it's not available, this last type of ID, it's because we do not have all the relevant products data that fulfill the requirement to assign and create the PCID. What you can see, and I can ask Andre to confirm, in PMS API there should be a permanent we call it in a way called technical permanent package identifier. This one you can use it and it's also stable. It's not going to change. Maybe Andre, if you want to complement.
Yes, indeed. So the PMS ID is the stable identifier of products that will not change. And that is the only product level ID available right now, alongside with mappings to EV codes from XCMPD where relevant.
Thank you. Next, can an MAH access more than one organization data via API, another organization under their headquarters? In XCMPD, we have more than one organization, so will the user request via EMA all the relevant organization API data access?
Yes, so currently by design, the access management approach is to generate API credentials per organization. So per OMS organization. So we need you to register for each organization. We take note of the intent of the question to make it maybe more user friendly from a user perspective. But for now, this is the by design.
Thank you. When downloading Power BI reports, we notice file names are same for different files, challenging the quick identification and distinction. Is this something EMA is planning to improve or update by renaming as appropriate?
I would like to thank this user because I didn't notice. So thank you for spotting. I'm reporting that today to our developers because I think it should be updated. Otherwise, the user experience might be affected. Thank you.
Thank you. In the SMP example of Sophia's Excel, the PCIDs are given per line to populate the marketing status. Therefore, the question on PCIDs. So,
sorry. Given the line to populate the marketing status. Okay. So it's a comment, basically.
Yeah.
So indeed, if you the previous answer I gave to you is I mentioned that there is a stable identifier, which we really call it stable technical package identifier. So this identifier was requested by the ESMP team members to make sure that whenever a package medicinal product was created in PMS, even though the PCID is not existing, because of course we need to enable the enrichment process to allow you as a user to submit all the missing data and facilitate the creation of this ID. They needed something, some identifiers to make sure that these could also quickly identify a packaged product when created. So that's why you can access this stable package identifier, which is not going to change, is going to be stable, and is going to be used to identification of the product, of the packages medicinal products in PMS and also in ESMP. If you want, you can access that via the API. And moreover, I'm going to update the chapter 2 to explain also these new fields, which is not something that you will need to populate. It's something automatically created by the system by default.
Thank you. Dynamic product report guidance seems slightly outdated, misaligned with current visible reports. When can we expect this guidance to be one-to-one aligned? For example, ATC report is not visible in left pane.
So as I mentioned, we are planning to refine and improve these reports. It's not going to be something that you can expect in Q3, but we will be scheduling the workload for Q4 just to be transparent with the stakeholders. Thank you for notifying also this ATC report that is not visible. So I'll make sure this is also communicated on time and included in the backlog for Q4. Thank you.
Thank you. For product UI, do we follow the same principle to request access per OMS organization?
So yes, you can still, if you follow the UAG chapter 1, but more importantly, the PUI registration guide process, you can still request your access at IAM level, of course. The difference is that if you want to access more than one organization's products, because you are I don't know, you are a consultant for many organizations, or you are an headquarters and you have some affiliates organization. In this case, you can request an IAM different for the same role for different organizations, and the results will be reflected in PUI. So by the time you connect to PUI, you access and you log in with your credential, you will be able to see all the products data of all the organization you requested that access for. So if you request qualified user access for 10 organizations within your own remit, you will be seeing all the products in there. And that's the difference versus API.
Thank you. Some of our one support tickets raised upon EMA data migration applicable for CAPs are still unresolved. Furthermore, we are worried messages we keep receiving may be automatic. How can we best ensure our CAP data records are looked into for EAF use?
So thank you for raising this. Unfortunately, I don't have the ID of this support ticket. So if you have my email, you can directly contact me or Marcos if you usually follow our webinars. But usually when it takes longer, especially when you have an issue being notified by being spotted, let's say, identified by EAF, it might take time because of the various data loads and data syncs that we have across the system. So I'm not sure about these specific tickets, but I can give you some reassurance that usually the colleagues are all investigating not only in EAF or in PMS, but across all the system feeding, starting from XAV, MPD, and Siament. It might take longer for that. If you can maybe, as an anonymous, you can share the ID, it would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, when is IG Chapter 2 update due to be published, please, as it influences PMS, XAV, MPD, and ESMP? So Chapter 2 should be updated in September. So at the moment, this is what is planned, but please, Veronica or Andre, if you have anything to add.
No, it's correct. It's September and it should be out before the next product increment event, which is scheduled for 26 and 27 of September. Just to inform you that the changes regarding the DSMP are mostly related to the new relationships that we have introduced at the level of the MBO section. So the class is focused on the manufacturer business operation, and few clarification regarding the structuring of the pack size details, and moreover regarding other fields. So in September.
Thank you. Next, in which part of the PMS or OMS documentation can we find the definition of headquarters and the relationships between headquarters and related organizations?
I'm afraid, I think this is a question to be addressed to the OMS colleagues. I can have a look and maybe in slide will reply to you as soon as I receive this information, because in PMS we do not make a we don't distinguish basically headquarter or general company. We just consider accesses based on the OMS data, so org ID, log ID. But I'll check the answer.
Thank you. We noticed when reviewing data via PMS API and POI, MA number and authorization status are present at both MP and PMP level, but this is not true for country, only displayed at MP level, despite the ISO data model describing it. Is this expected?
So in chapter 2, there is a section explaining that for CAPS products, number assigned at the level of the marketing authorization number, the MAA number can be placed at both levels. So if you have, I need to check now, because thank you for raising that. I'll check it. But if you have, for instance, a CAP products, the authorization number, the common root path, it has to go at the level of the medicinal products. If you have then 001, 002, 003, because maybe you have authorized 3 different packaged medicinal products, or 3 pack size of 3 presentations, in this case, the root, not the root number, the remaining part at the end of the NEA number, so 001 or 003, they are to be allocated at the level of the packaged medicinal products. I'll check anyway and give you the answers better in the slide. Thank you.
So Veronica, if I can add, I think the
Sure.
main question is related to the country field. So that is from our implementation guide, section 473. Indeed, that should be also on package level. I think the PMS API displays that properly, or at least I'm checking one of our NAPs, non-caps right now, and that looks okay. It may be that the product UI is not exposing that, so we'll take this and look into it further, and then I think it needs to be exposed on all systems.
Thank you. Is the PMS technical package ID available only via API query, or is it displayed in POI as well? If I understood correctly, we should map our packages to this ID.
Is not available in POI. You can only access via the API.
Okay, thank you. Is there any difference between API data and POI data, which means any additional data or identifiers that are available only in API? Just now, it was mentioned there is an identifier for package.
So I'm thinking about, so the product user interface, the data model has been designed according to UIG chapter 2, the latest version. The API is again, of course, aligned to the PMS UAG chapter 2, but the previous version. So the difference is that you can see will be mostly at the level of for instance, the manufacturers, which are not all the relationship that have been added in API, and we plan to align it. And I think Andre can confirm that. So just to reassure, whatever you see in API and in PUI anyway, the key information that are required for the ESMP, for the supporting of the go live of the ESMP platform, and so on, this information, which are the key aspects, they are all aligned. What we are planning to do is to make sure that for the final, let's call it in this way, go live, when we will be able to open the fully edit process, the target operating model, the both tools can be fully aligned, so there is no mismatch. Maybe Andre, you want to add anything on the API side?
Yeah, just the point that, okay, the API in principle also exposes a lot of other technical information around business fields. So from a technical perspective, that would be a richer piece of information also to support in the future writing back data to PMS. Yeah, indeed, I think the product UI has identified the fields that are necessary for the current requirements, and then probably that will be extended as also the data model in PMS makes sense.
Thank you. Please guide us on how will the initial migration for Luxembourg be ensured, keeping in mind that MAH is submitting different MA numbers for each packaging. Here, how can MA number be the grouping element for Luxembourg as described in Chapter 7?
So on this question, we'll give you the right answers because Marcos Fernandez is the expert on Chapter 7, but also on XMPD migration rules versus PMS. Please bear with me and I will give you the answer by this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We notice pack size field data is sometimes blank values when reviewing through the PMS API. Is this likely due to CAPS values migrated by EMA for this data element for SAMET and left blank to be enriched for non-CAPS NAPs by industry?
Andre, do you want me to take it? I can.
Bear with me. I was just yes.
Yeah.
So the answer to the question is yes. We are able to get pack size information only from SIMET data, so only CAPS have this field, and this is actually a field that is then in scope for non-CAPS to be enriched by industry further. One of the first elements. So indeed, non-CAPS do not have that information yet.
Thank you. Related to the previous question about country in API and PMS at PMP level, we were unable to retrieve it from the API, though I heard the answer is it should be there and EMA will review exposure on PUI. Unclear about PMS API.
Yeah, I was just checking a non-cap and the cap as well. I see it. So could you please open a question on the service desk with a specific example, and then we will look into it further. Maybe there are specific patterns of data there where that doesn't work, and I just stumbled upon something where it looks good. So please open a ticket on the service desk with the question for the PMS API.
Okay. Thank you. So we have still 5 minutes to answer your questions on PUI and API if you have any other questions. Meanwhile, we've opened, as usual, a quick surveys just to check how useful was this session for you, still in Slido. So if you can answer that, it will be super appreciated from us. I see Some people are responding already.
And if I may have the last question that was raised about the country fields, I'm checking in PUI and indeed is correct. At the package level, so the packaged medicinal products, the country doesn't display the EU value, while at the medicinal product is there. So thank you for notifying that. I'll investigate on the reason why this is closed.
So at the moment, we don't have any more questions, but we have a few responses to the survey. Oh, we have 2 questions now. Do you foresee publishing a more detailed guidance on the use of API for non-technical PMS users?
So the direct use of the API is intended for machine-to-machine integration. I'm not really sure how a non-technical user would be able to fully navigate that. In principle, there should be an implementation or an application on a user's side to integrate with the PMS API and offer a user interface on that application to browse the data in a user-friendly approach for non-technical people. However, in principle, we've taken some feedback on the demo that was done on the use of the PMS API through Postman, and that is something that will improve for the next time we do a demo. There will be at least one session related to all the Spore APIs in the autumn, and we will, or I will, demo the PMS API there as well. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are new packagings reflecting in PMS under incorrect MP full name record because it is not yet submitted in XCV-MPD and only available in SciMed, do expect the MP full name to be corrected following match and merge process?
Yes, that's the match and merge process is for the once you submit the information in XCV-MPD, the product's name is basically overwritten by these fields from the SciMed one.
Thank you. So, last chance to ask your questions. Do you have any doubt?
I didn't see any other questions.
No, exactly. So we will close in a minute. We don't have any more questions. Oh, I see there's actually a last question, but in the feedback, asking if you could please list the current difference between API and PUI related to the data set available.
In a document, I guess, to make it clearer.
Yeah.
Yes, we will. Thank you for the comment. We will take it on board, and I'll see what we can do as a document to clarify that point. But it's a good point. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, last question. When will the detailed tables mentioned by Marcos on 11 July be published?
I think this is part of the material of the webinar that he hosted indeed on the 11th of July. And I don't know, Katarina, when did it
So the presentation is already available on the event webpage. The recording is under editing for publication, but I expect it will be ready in a few days.
Okay. then
Okay.
yes, close.
So our time is over for today, but we remind you that next week we will have another Q&A clinic in case you think about any more questions meanwhile. And so thank you for joining, and thank you, Veronica and Andre, for responding to all the questions.